To me, what it is thought transfer. I'll give you an example. You've got to go and check on your car, but you know that you locked it. So you go out and go, I don't know why, I've just got to go and check the car. So you go out and check the car. As you walk out to go and check the car, you look up and there's a craft there. They can give you that thought that you perceive as your own thought to go and check on the car and neg you till you go out, and then you go out there and you see a craft and repeatedly I've helped thousands of people now, and what I can say is in so many cases when I ask them what happened before you had to go outside, and it'll be something that they had to check the mailbox of the car. Like, I'm just throwing examples out there, and it will be over and over, and they knew they didn't have to go outside and check that, but this thought wouldn't stop nagging them. Just like the reverse is for a psychic attack. Negative influences will use your thoughts on past traumas, wrong conclusions, judgments, vices over and over, and you think, I'm thinking this, why am I thinking this? And that's what a negative influence can do.
Welcome to the Biba frequency, home to conversations with consciousness. I'm Biba, your host. Hey folks, welcome back to the Biba frequency podcast. That's me. My name is Biba. And today I invited back on Peter Maxwell Slattery. Pete, I invited him back on because I did, and I can, because he's brilliant and he's so much information to share that not even in this interview did we cover so much of what he is offering. We talk about his experiences with ET contact, with his own encounters and experiences on crafts and off-world, and all the engagements he's having with these different crafts. Wherever he goes, they seem to be there. And he'll say, well, they're there anyway, but they seem to follow him around. And I asked him, why is that? He talked about remote viewing. He talked about the specific skill sets that he has and how he is here to really assist people in the evolution of their soul and to help them self-regulate, emotionally regulate. And so self-mastery is part of ET contact and knowing who you are. And he discussed all those amazing things. We talked for a couple of hours, and I can't tell you any specifics because Pete covered a lot of ground. At one point, he was talking, I had so many questions. By the time he'd finished talking, I'd forgotten them all. And it went on like that for 2 hours. So enjoy the show, and thank you, Pete, once again. And until next time, I'll wait for that. That will be brilliant, because this was a brilliant episode, and I'm really looking forward to going back and actually listening to it again. Pete's very authentic, and he's a wonderful teacher in this reality, and he's an experiencer, and he's been around a long time, and his soul is very evolved, and so he has a lot to give, and it's all love based. It's not ego based, and to me that's just where it's at, so I enjoy his company and I enjoy his space, and I hope you do too. Welcome back, Pete.
Biba, it's good to be doing this again.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you back on the show. I got a great feedback from your first interview, and we touched on some things in that interview, and you said one thing in that interview. You said at the very end, you said, Biba, it's already done. It's done. And very shortly after that interview, I was watching a podcast, just a podcast on Steve Neal's podcast and Breaking the Silence. And I'd already seen the podcast, but I watched it again anyway. And then I realized that podcast only came out an hour ago. So I contacted Steve Neal and I said, Steve, when did you re-release an interview? Because his guest had a book, and I tried to buy the book, but I couldn't buy the book. Right? So he said, no, but that was a live conversation an hour ago. And I said, but I've just word for word, like I saw that interview about 3 months ago. And then I remembered what you said. You said, it's already done. It's already done. And I'm like, I really, really get what you're saying. What is that, Pete? What is that? How would you describe that?
Some would say it's timeline jumping. There's many theories you could put to it, but I think when you're at a certain level of consciousness, we're weaving in and out of a situation where you could be tapping into other points of time, because there is really no points in time. It's all happening at the same time. But when you're at a certain level, you can start to bleed through and be multidimensional and experiencing things like that. And it's not normal, we could say, from the perspective of this is a linear experience. You got the start of the day, the end of the day, with everything's, night and day, start, end, everything like that. But when you're going multidimensional, there is times that things like that are happening. And sometimes there are other entities or intelligences that can put us in situations and experiences like that. Just like when I said it was done, I was actually out here with an experience I had where they came through and they said it's already done. And what it was that everything ends up fine. Everything, what we're here to do, what we're here to assist with, what we're here to transform, it's done. We're perceiving that we're going through the motions, like I said to you, to my conclusion with where I'm at now, and that could change in tomorrow, could change in a year from now or 10 years, but we're on a friggin' treadmill in God's mind. We're not going anywhere. We're perceiving that we're going somewhere, but depending on where your pinpoint of awareness is focused is what you're experiencing. And I don't know what you experience, but maybe to me is you're experiencing an effective multidimensional mind.
Like definitely multidimensional mind, but that's like, it's not an edited podcast. It's not even been in the field. It's obviously in the quantum field. It's there in consciousness. That conversation's already happened. It's the word for word, like it's the movements, like that conversation, like this conversation is just this has just already happened then. Me and you having whatever I'm saying to you has already happened. So am I just in a reality where I'm just playing rewind?
So I will say to you, look, and I can't say that like what you've experienced, but what I'll say this to you from my own contact and experience, and mainly it's beyond extraterrestrial level. It's hard to explain. It does go up to angelic intelligences, but there's a thing that was explained to me once that you'll start to have things happen that you feel that you have already experienced. And it's because you're tapped into the God self view, which is experiencing all aspects at the same time, and there is no past, present, or future. It's all just is. When that happens, it's a telltale sign that you're basically like you're getting towards where you need to go.
Great.
That's the only way I could explain. It's not like you're going to miss the boat or whatever with where you're meant to go, but it's more like it's something that you can't explain that you've experienced, and their thing was that's to let you know that you're going where you need to go.
Okay, that's so it's a message really then.
Yeah, I can't say that's for you. You know, I do. We've talked about I do readings and stuff like that. The other thing is too that like even with some of my experiences, they've put me back as I'm leaving. Now I'm not saying that this is an ET thing, but you look at ET technology do that, and to me, consciousness can override any species or intelligence when you're tapped into the field, because that's what everything's projecting from. So when you're tapping into your higher self and it's directing and guiding you and in some cases giving you a signpost like that of an experience, that's in a way, in effect, God working through that aspect of you. And when that is happening, game on. Anything's possible. Stuff that will make science fiction, normal concepts within science fiction seem like child's play. Because now you're operating from where everything's created.
Oh man, listen, when I listened, it was the book. It was the fact that I went and looked, I had the evidence. Like you can doubt yourself. And I'm thinking, but I knew what he was going to say about his wife died and the guest is coming on, the 8-hour time difference, but it was the book. And I thought, if it's already done, clearly it's not if, it's already happened. I don't need to worry about anything. Ever.
No, but and I still come to that same conclusion. I do. How would I explain this? Because I've had similar experiences here on the property with people rocking up or certain events unfolding at the sanctuary more than ever, which is showing me all right, I'm everything's sort of happening how it's meant to be happening. But you can't lose the drive. You can't lose the passion.
Great advice.
Because if everything's all right, it's like nothing can be always 100% perfect. Like you can't always be happy, because if you're always happy, you wouldn't know what sadness is. And if you're not sad, you don't know what happiness is.
Yeah.
You need to experience the full spectrum of source.
That's
so my personal thing is don't lose the passion, don't lose the drive.
that's
Don't lose it.
that's
Don't get
impossible.
complacent going, oh, everything's all fine, and, you
No.
know, go back to the 60s and pull out the joint and put on some music and everything's no, we've still got to co-create with Source. As I say to people, as long as you pull your weight, Source will meet you halfway. But it's almost like that journey unfolds because of you pulling halfway. And even though it's already happened, it wouldn't have been planned that way if there wasn't an agreement on your part to be meeting Source halfway.
Yeah.
Because we're co-creating with Source. We're creator beings.
Yeah, we are creator beings. So what I learned was I felt weird for a day. It was like I just felt weird. I thought this is it's weird because, as you said, game on. Now anything's possible. Because I've known this, but I hadn't seen it so obviously. That was so obvious to me. It was like my soul was going, are you getting this yet? Are you actually getting that it's already done? And I'm like, yeah, I got it, but it feels weird. So then I woke up and I was fine. And then I realized now it's really time to get on the actual creation. And what I mean by don't worry is and not sit back, because you can't sit back, because I'm here to interact. I'm the interaction point in this time. That's why I'm here, to interact. I'm in a body. I'm not a rock. I'm here to actually get my hands in and figure it out and learn it and relearn it, obviously, and remember. But the lower incoherent frequency of, is everything going to be okay? It doesn't need to be like that. It is okay because it's already done. You're just in the middle of an episode, even though all the episodes are finished. You're just in this season, in this episode, interacting with this information at this time, and get in and get in and get in as much as you can. Actually, it's the opposite, because the more that reveals itself to you, it's not like go and check out. It's actually, no, go into it. And go into it, because the more you go into it, the more it will interact with you, right? The more it will.
And that's when you get it, like you get it, that's where it is game on, because there is it is a convoluted thing with this. How would I explain this? I'll give you an example. So there's been things that I said or foretold that would happen, and things have happened, whether they're earthquakes or terrorist events or certain things. It's not to go and look at me, as I say to people, it's not to, my point with this is that there's always been an aspect with this that Shiji said to me that we got to a certain point that now it's create your own reality time, and that we're in this now, and that things can still change. Now, of course, there's foretold things that I, as not just myself is saying, but whether there's certain types of earth changes, things to do with the sun, political and social, economic disasters that can help transform, but these things can also be avoided depending on the consciousness and where we're at. This is part of the co-creating scenario. But you've also got a scenario with this that being creator beings, there's responsibility that needs to come with this. And acknowledging and meeting the universe halfway is where it's key. But my point with this is right now, when all these people like us say that they've come here for this, like with the events, I won't say the word, but what happened the last few years, depending on where this is airing, people were coming to me and I said, yeah, but this is the time that we talked about stepping up. You're all talking for years and years, you know, that these events are unfolding and this is the sign, this, that, the other. Well, use of the bloody guides in physical form to help people empower themselves and educate them in these times. And everyone's complaining. I'm like, everyone should be waving their hands in the air going, this is friggin' awesome. Like, this is all starting to happen. It's like, this is what we're here for. Step up. Everyone's got different abilities, different things that they can contribute, and together we're a powerhouse. And the divide and conquer game and everything else it's been designed that way to make this a harder time in Source's soul evolution in human form of experiencing itself. So if we acknowledge this and see that whether it's things like you're talking about experiencing, these are all telltale signs of, some might call it the golden age or the new earth, all these different terms. And from my experience, these things are actually happening on multiple different levels. It's not just one thing. that's what I'd like people to think about, is like, this is actually, as screwed up as things are, this is what everyone's been talking about for so long. You know, even in different ancient texts, it's pointing towards these times, and we're in these times right now, and it should be bloody exciting. But in that is you finding your strength. And as we'll talk about before this interview, before you get to that point of you finding how far you can go, you're going to be met with the opposition at that extreme level as well. But how you respond to that is showing, are you ready for that next level? Because when you get to that next level, there's more responsibility and there's more effect you're going to have. But are you ready for it? And it's not right or wrong if you're ready or not. It's just, are you at that stage that you can consciously be ready for that next level?
I love it. I think it's brilliant. The shitstorm that's happening, as you said, like, come on, we've all been studying this and researching it and investigating it and tuning into it for decades. Like, what is the book of Revelations? I studied that book for 10 years as a Christian. And then I went on to all the different Nag Hammadis. And then I thought, hold on, a lot of this stuff could have been altered. Just because it's written doesn't mean it's just written. And who was getting that information? You know, just because he's got a name and it was written at that time doesn't mean it's like I have to accept that as my truth. So what is my truth, and what is my contribution as a creator being at this time? What is my contribution? What is my frequency that I'm going to inject into this reality at this time?
100%. And that's where I say to people, it's like, these things that occur, or these things that we read, let me say, they are a signpost. And the signpost of, you are responsible for you, and what you do and what you say and how you react and respond and everything else contributes to things going in a certain direction. So if enough of us don't be conscious of our thoughts and our actions, that's where we're going. But either way, there is an ascension that takes place. Now, the ascension, I think, would be cool to go into, because we've got the Merkaba light body, the photon robe of light, the chariot throne as it is in the biblical or the Jewish mysticism. And then with the Tibetan aspect, we've got the rainbow body, where we shed the physical form, and I know from experience the two are tied in, but they're different mechanics. You actually go from a physical form into a Merkaba, then a rainbow, and that rainbow merges with source, and you can decide where you'll pop out. You come from rainbow back into a Merkaba, back into physical form, and I've experienced this. But my point with this is, there's that form of ascension. There's a form of ascension that you can divide off from this universe and create your own universe. But there's also just raising your frequency. That's ascending. You're raising your frequency. There's also going to the new earth. There is an ascension and a shift happening for everyone. And I believe it's a universal type thing within this frequency, within source, that as we shift, other beings and other frequencies shift up as well. And what's been happening here has been a bit of a stagnant situation, but so many people don't want to be here. They don't. I get it all the time. And my come to with this is that what I'd like people to know and to embrace is the human experience. I've got a lot that I can't talk about and that I've alluded to, but the touch of another human, the smell of a rose, the smell of air, or interacting with nature, or talking to somebody, it can't be done like this anywhere else in this way. It's an amazing thing. And because people have come from higher states of consciousness, and really we all come from source anyway, but they might have come from other worlds before here, and it's very dense here. There are a lot of people that are committing suicide. They're in lower states, and that's usually, from my experience, got to do with demonic or archonic or reptilian influences and entities, and people are unaware of it, thinking that these are their own thoughts. And these are the people with the most light that end up necking themselves, and they don't understand why they're being attacked so hard, and they might think they're weak, and they're in a lot of pain when they're doing this stuff. But I want people to know how powerful they are, and that everyone's going through it in their own way, but that they are full of so much light. Like, how much resistance you interface with is how much light you carry on the opposite spectrum of that. And as I say these days, let love be your compass, but let truth be your destination. Because you don't know the direction you're going, but if you're coming from the heart through love, that's going to get you to where you need to go to. And what is that? That's truth. And we could say what truth is for one person is different for another, and it can also be, if you look at an accident, two people can be telling the truth and they see two different reasons why that accident happened. But in the end, there's an actual truth of how that thing actually occurred.
Mm-hmm.
They're not lying, but there's a truth even beyond them of what caused whatever that event was. And that's it. There isn't this, that, the other. There's the reason. And when you're in truth, you're unstoppable. But it's integrity and through other things that we've spoken about before, that whether influences or our own misjudgments will try to, let's say, set us back further on the journey and bring us back 10 steps. And that's part of the journey. You go forward 5 steps, back 2, forward 7 steps, back another 3.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that for everyone. But ascension is a beautiful thing. And either way, we're going to ascend back to our natural state. But we're powerful beings here at this time that are here to help elevate human consciousness. And everyone should be cheering, going, yeah, it's hitting the fan. But hey, haven't you been saying it's going to be hit the fan? I've been saying it, and in a way, it's like I'm happy, but it doesn't mean I endorse the negativity that's going on. But to me, this is a sign that things are moving forward and things are coming into play.
I'm just catching a thought. You just said something about when something happens, it's not for the reason you think. There's always a higher truth. There's always a truth why that happened. And you teach self-mastery. Like, that's what you bring here. You teach self-mastery, and self-mastery is being able to have a broader perspective of things from a multidimensional aspect, so you can see the greater truth as to why these things are happening, so you're not caught up in the trauma of it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you get to see why that really happened. Because, you know, you'll say, there's a reason for this. I don't know what it is, but there has to be a reason. But with self-mastery, you get to the reason a lot quicker. So you can get over stuff quicker. So you can just go, okay, that happened because there's a greater truth. And that's the self-mastery, isn't it?
It is. But let me give you another analogy, because people go, there's my truth and there's this truth, and I'm not having to dig at anyone. And that can be their truth. But let's say there's a person driving a car and they hit another car when they're turning a corner. Well, let's say somebody on the sidewalk said they were looking at them and they were looking in the wrong direction. And that's how the accident was caused. And the other driver was saying she was on the phone, like she was talking. She must have been on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what caused the accident. And then the accident happens and she goes to, or say it's he or she, whoever goes to hospital, and let's say they had a stroke or a heart attack. The other 2 people were totally wrong. And yet they saw something that, hey, her head was turned this way, so she wasn't looking. This person saw the mouth moving, so, hey, she was talking. And to each person, it's the truth. But the actual truth was that person, let's say, had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
They were both wrong.
Yeah.
There's always something deeper in everything. And that's why I say you never know what each person is going through. If they're having a bad day, somebody just died, they went through a relationship breakup, what have you. But as long as you let truth be what guides you, I don't think you can go wrong, even though you may make ill judgments at time. But let's say mistakes aren't mistakes, they're lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You're just being an idiot if you keep repeating it, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not a mistake. You're actually just, hey, come on, get your crap together. Why do I attract this type of person? Why do I attract that? What's going on? Why? There's something to it. And that's where self-inquiry comes in, by going within and analyzing it and looking at it from different perspectives and meditating on it. And for some people, they might get counseling or what have you. But that's why self-mastery is the key, which, again, I'm still probably more known for my experiences and UFO and extraterrestrial documentation and what have you. But that's why I entwine self-mastery with everything. Forgive me, it's getting a bit later here, but I'm getting into the coffee. But yeah, you're all right. You're all right. But that's my point with this is that I think, like I've said to people, like when you interface with some of these intelligences, depending on what level, they can read you like a book.
Wow.
So can you deal with another intelligence that knows every single thought you're having or anything you're trying to hide? It knows. And in most cases, they've got love and compassion and non-judgment. And in others, they will use that against you.
Mm.
Just like with demonic and archonic reptilian entities that working on those levels, they will try and trigger you through your vices or past traumas and what have you. And do you really want to be opening up to contact? And if you want contact, why are you having contact? Because first, before you even realize you're trying to initiate it, one, you want to have self-mastery to be able to do it on a conscious level. But the next level up, the convoluted thing is you've always had it and you always have had it. Whether it's through thoughts, ideas, epiphanies, synchronicities, ever since you're in this world, the contact's always been there. And it's usually a higher dimensional contact rather than extraterrestrial contact, because there's a big difference in ultra terrestrials and what have you. But how's it going to benefit the situation and what you're in? And that's why, to me, self-mastery and working with the heart, which you're doing now, and I'm doing a lot of work through the heart, to me is an absolute key to any of this.
Yeah.
Because it's got its own neuron network, and it's actually the first organ that manifests in the womb, and to me, it's the core of the light blueprint.
Wow.
In the physical form, the physical manifestation of the light body is the core part of it. And if you can tap into heart intelligence and be operating from the heart space rather than a place of fear or scarcity or lack, the heart takes what the brain's got to say in. But if you're purely operating from the brain, it's kicking the heart because the heart's wanting to go in the unknown and manifest. It's like, no, shut up. I've got to pay bills. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And we have to do these things. But the heart's like, yeah, dude, we've got all that taken care of, but I'm trying to show other experiences and other levels we can experience. And because it's taking the brain out of the known, it's very uncomfortable for the brain. But if you operate from the heart, at least it will include it. If you're purely here, it kicks that heart down.
Yeah,
so the heart really is key to all of it.
Totally. The heart is the portal into the soul. Like you talk about soul evolution, I talk about soul evolution. I mean, what else are we doing here? Really? How many cars do you want? How many wives do you want? How many babies do you want? How many cats do you want to save? You know, how many likes are you really looking for? That all is wonderful, and it's fun in this playground of life. However, we're here to get shit done on a soul evolution. So, and how you get shit done is you go in and you get in touch with the part that's not got the noise that's in the mind, and there's space in there to create what you want. And what do you know what you want? Well, you got to go another layer in and discover who you are in there and what you are in there, and it will reveal to you what needs to be done here. So you're never alone. You don't ever have to figure it out by yourself. You got to go in through the portal of your heart. It's your own soul, and it's right there. And in your soul, as you said, is all the healing, is all the answers, is all the wisdom, is all the insights. And it's just an unspoken jewel. It's just the jewel. It's like they call that the Ark of the Covenant, right? That's what that actually is. Like, let's be honest about it. It's your own portal. It's your Stargate. It's what you are. And you function from there. So you've activated that and you function from there. So everything, Pete, you do is from that space. So you're emanating through your videos of UFOs, crafts all over your YouTube channel is yours. Another night, just countless amounts of, and by the way, not a craft, but there's like many. One time I counted 14 crafts in the sky in one of your videos. And I'm thinking, if I saw 14 crafts in the sky, I think I'd crawl into a hole and go, Pete, when you are out and you know to go out and you see them, like, that's very normal for you, isn't it?
It is, but it's still like, in the beginning, it pissed me off. Because I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, why is it that every time I go outside and I know there's a craft there, there's a craft there? Like, I wasn't understanding this. And for me, back in those days, if I couldn't see it, touch, taste it, smell it, have a witness with me and film it, I was even contacting Australian Air Services, and they're like, there's nothing, there's no flights, no helicopters, planes, nothing at that time, like nothing. And I still wasn't enough for me until the orbs started appearing in the home, and then later Shiji and the Pleiadian and the Elohim and all the other stuff that's come on with it up until now. Like even it's just like we're talking even today stuff still going on. So like even for people when they're with me, even though my family is like I can be sitting down. Just as an example, this is a good example from a few years ago. I was sitting under a back porch with my mother and brother and stepdad at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally take one step and put my head out from the patio and I go, craft, broad, middle of the day. And everyone comes out and we're watching it for 15 minutes. I got it on footage, 4K footage, television camera I was filming it with. And it was jumping, like bilocating around the sky, doing amazing stuff. But everyone just commented, like, it happens all the time. Like, you were just sitting here eating lunch and you just literally pop your head out and go, they're here. And we all come out and here's this craft. And even mum's seen in broad daylight. Like, she has this. And the thing is, you talk to many experiences. To me, what it is thought transfer. I'll give you an example. You've got to go and check on your car, but you know that you locked it. So you go out and go, I don't know why, I've just got to go and check the car. So you go out and check the car. As you walk out to go and check the car, you look up and there's a craft there. They can give you that thought that you perceive as your own thought to go and check on the car and neg you till you go out. And then you go out there and you see a craft and repeatedly, I've helped thousands of people now. And what I can say is in so many cases when I ask them what happened before you had to go outside, and it'll be something that they had to check the mailbox of the car. Like I'm just throwing examples out there and it will be over and over. And they knew they didn't have to go outside and check that, but this thought wouldn't stop nagging them. Just like the reverse is for a psychic attack. Negative influences will use your thoughts on past traumas, wrong conclusions, judgments, vices over and over. And you think, I'm thinking this. Why am I thinking this? And that's what a negative influence can do.
Mm-hmm.
So being on crafts, taken to other worlds and understanding what I'm explaining to you, which is thought transfer, once you can understand that, all you got to do is have a thought. And they're just giving you thoughts, feelings, emotions, and projections in the mind's eye back in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't know in most cases is that I'm sometimes on board the craft in my mind or interfacing with the beings and communicating with them while I'm filming them from the ground, even from the light when I'm looking at the light. Up to there's a craft last year and I had a girlfriend here at the time and people are saying like all this stuff about the video, and then one person's like, I forget what it was, but in the video you can hear that I said when the craft was going to appear, and it appeared when I said. And people are like, how did he know that? Because I'm communicating with them. Mm-hmm. Not only that, on that same video, the craft comes back the opposite direction, and there's two balls of light next to each other extremely down low. And it's, again, not, look at me, this and that. But my point with this is that's why, and I don't talk about it that much, because the amount of crap that I've got over the years, and I'm like, people will understand that when if they can see what I'm saying without me needing to say it, then they're at that level to understand it. But I'm doing this to educate, because meaning what I'm conversing with you here, because people may have some aha moments from what I'm saying in this case, and they're open-minded in these sort of forums, meaning, yeah, I've had a sighting before and that's how it occurred. But you can also have that happen with your spirit guides. It doesn't have to be extraterrestrial. Like I say, extraterrestrials still have to deal with the spirits and the angels as well as demonic entities in all places. So just because they're ET doesn't mean they're ascended. You're not ascended until you're back with the source. Every state is just an ascended state, elevated from the last.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's not.
Originally come from the source, so you're going back there anyway.
So just go back a little bit, because you always talk so fast. You give a lot of information very fast, and I want to go back. It's like, so there's a craft is there, and you're looking at it, you're filming at it, and you're on it at the same time, right? You're on it at the same time. What's that like, being on it at the same? So you're in it and you're watching yourself. Watch yourself.
It's really weird, because it's not just a psychic thing. See, when it started happening, I actually started getting vertigo and would fall over filming.
Really?
Because it's almost like my brain or the balancing in, I'm theorizing with this part, but you know how like our inner ear or what have you is responsible for our balance?
Yeah.
Well, in my mind's eye, when I'd start to see on board the craft, I'm no longer where I'm meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And my body computer, my physical body and brain are now picking up on that. And the body, the way I'm trying to film is out of balance with what I'm now seeing coming online.
Wow.
So it's like,
lovely.
imagine having a dream with your eyes open that you can still see where you are, but in your mind's eye, you're also got a screen that's just as real as what your physical eyes are seeing.
Yeah.
And they can even split that up and bring up another compartment of projections while you're looking at them. Like it like in your head, while I'm still filming the craft. Then you've also got thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are in sync with that it can be like a 45-minute conversation within 5 seconds of information, packets of information that you may not fully understand, but you get it. But if I had to relay it, it would take me so long to try and linearize and vocalize, because it's more of a feeling and knowingness. That's even how a lot of the script and the symbols work, is it's books of information, in some cases paragraphs, that it surpasses here, but there's more of a knowingness and an empathic feeling with it. Yeah, it's different for each person, I think, but for me, now a lot of it's more mind's eye, while I've got open eyes and this communication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a knowingness even when I'm filming the craft. So, but it's not like every craft or everything I see I actually know. Like there's a lot of things that will come in my presence that either is attracted to me or I think is happening to call through the neighborhood and I'm picking up on it. And it picks up on that I'm picking up on it. So I think my point in my latest book I did, Ascending, was that, or my second latest book, was that I didn't realize, I don't like the term psychic, but I didn't realize that I was. And because of that, I wasn't understanding this. I think we all are to some level, but because we're not educated on it, we don't know what to think it is.
Yeah, well, we kind of do know. We just got to remember.
Yeah.
Just got to remember. So we don't know, but we do know. We don't know here,
Yeah.
but we do know here. Right?
Exactly.
So all these crafts, and it's undeniable. So let's not even bother with that. All these crafts are around you wherever you go. Why is that?
I think partly is because they're everywhere.
Okay.
But then some of it's protection for me. It's twofold. Sometimes it's me, but I think, because I film this stuff anywhere I've gone in the world, it doesn't matter. I've had interactions wherever I go.
Exactly.
But I tend to find that some of it's local to that area and some of it, is a direct being that I know. So it's twofold. It is me, but it's not. It's sometimes what's in that area, and I just happen to pick up on it as well.
Okay, so you're picking up on the local.
So why me on a higher level?
Yeah. No, like what I mean is, like, I don't go out at night and film crafts. Now I'm moving into an apartment.
But I don't either. I just walk out and I know when they're there. Like, people think I'm sitting outside all night. I'm not sitting out. The only time I'm sitting outside is when I hold events. Seriously.
Which is all the time, right?
Well, I've only held 3 this year, and before that I hadn't held any since 2020 because of what happened. But I literally just will go, like, I just know that they're here. I'll grab the camera and walk out. Or I might go and close the front gate and I'll just put the camera in my pocket in case something happens. So I'm not, like, people think I'm sitting out. Oh, he must be, like, until they come and visit me. And people, when they come and visit me, they're like, I can tell they're like, oh, when are we going to go and sit outside and this and that? And it's like, I don't need to do that. Like, I can just chill. If you want to go outside and look, like, yeah, we can do that. But to me, it's more like, hey, like, I just know when I don't need to waste 3-4 hours hoping something will happen. I just know when it's going to happen and walk out.
Yeah, like your friends are in town. There they are. You just know when they're around.
Yeah.
So,
And, well, the crazy stuff happens when I'm sitting inside. That is like James Gilliland would put it, dazzle duty. The crazy stuff is when I'm sitting in here and they materialize.
what's that like? Give us an example when there's the crazy stuff happens when I'm on the inside.
Well, it happens outside as well, but it's just sort of like I could be just, let's say I might have just made a coffee, sit down, and I'm about to just check emails on the phone or something. and I'll just look up. And first off, you might see something moving in the peripheral. Like I'll give you a recent example. So the Guardians, which is like the little greys, but they're actually white, and they're actually part of, I'm going to sound bat crazy, part of the House of Gabriel. They're not greys at all. They're white light beings that take on that form. Usually, from my understanding, so I wouldn't freak out, but they originally would appear as Kurt Cobain, which freaked me out. They freaked me out. They should have just appeared as white light beings to start off with, to tell you the truth. So John Vivanco, the remote viewer, now he's worked for NASA and alphabet agencies and done a lot of, he's highly regarded in what he does. Well, originally when we met, on one of the videos I've got where you can see it blink, which I couldn't see it. All I could see was a shadow ducking in and out, which the data was that from John was that they crashed their craft into my house. There was 5 of them and they were taking turns looking at me. And people were thinking that was fake, this and that, not understanding. What did I say to you before we started this interview, how I went on television over a decade ago and I was on Sunrise, a show here, saying they're like ghosts. Well, the beings are in apparition form in that video. They're not fully materialized. Like John said, they've crashed the craft half in inside and outside your house. Well, it's not in this dimension. That's why. My point with this is when John started to remote view them, they now visit him and his remote viewers, the same beings, physically. They physically materialize in their homes.
Really?
And I actually just got a story from John, I think last week or the week before, about the latest encounter of it. And they're like children on sugar.
Wow.
So when I see them, they usually pop in the hallway and I can see them in my peripheral and they'll start to materialize. They're doing like security checks, we could say, almost nightly. Now, the funny thing is that even with the indoor security systems, they completely shut off. Every other camera where they're not is recording. And as soon as I even go to the monitor of those security cameras, they're totally disconnected, but yet they're plugged in the wall. But yet I've got photos. There's other stuff that you can see of the beings in the documentary. So yes, I've got a lot of stuff as people are aware of, but there's some stuff that's just for me. But like with the Elohim, there will be times where it's like lightning's in the house. Only way I can describe it. And that's something I wish I could film to actually see what's going on. Because you know when you're sitting inside and you might start to sort of see some light or whatever, and then you look and then you start to see in the distance there's a lightning storm or something.
No.
It's like that, but in the house.
Wow, in the house. How bizarre.
And then they just appear. Now, originally they were appearing as 7-foot tall light beings, nor male nor female. And I'll just have tears down my face. I've got better to adapting with them now. But the physics side of it, which still blows my mind, is that they emanate a white light, but they're blue. They come in different colors and as rainbows, and they can appear that they're on fire, which is really the light body, but they emanate white light and they were blue back in those days. Originally, they were coming in as blue orbs, but I didn't understand until later that that's what the blue orbs were. And they're really columns of light. They projected that 7-foot version as a way I could interface.
Right.
So, and even on the fields here, I alluded to it recently, like Gabriel appears about a foot off the ground as an orb, about 3 to 6 foot. Sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's bigger. It's just a white light. And it will actually follow the paths on the sanctuary or appear in the hall and come out. So when those things are happening, there is an awness to it, but there is also emotional reactions like tears, bliss, sometimes even with the heart, like an excitement that I can't even describe. But there's also, in some cases, like with Shiji, even though these days, a lot of it, up until recently, I had a physical experience with her, but a lot of the time over the years, it's been through telepathy. But when a lot of this got crazy, I think this is around 2012, don't quote me. There was about 6 months of physical interactions with Shiji on and off. And it was so weird that other people had experienced it. One in particular had an experience with her that was with me. And the only way I can describe it is it's like you're in your own space-time envelope that I could have a 2-3 minute conversation with you if you were in this bubble and everything else wouldn't even be a second in time go by. So it plays with the human mind because it's like, how could I converse that long, but everything else is frozen outside of this bubble?
Beautiful.
And she's actually a light being as well. So these aren't your normal, and she's an extraterrestrial light being. This is what I say, like there are beings on other planets that are in higher frequencies and some in the 3D, but the adapting to it took many years. And that's where John Vivanco and his team asked why me. And they said there's not, if anything, like me at all on this planet. They said maybe 4 or 5 similar to you, but nothing's been done in the way that you were designed to always be connected to source, no matter what good or bad experience you've gone through, which is why I've experienced extreme trauma, but also I've had it extremely good as well. But I've always kept that connection. And because of that, there's many races that want my genetics, and there's a lot of genetic tinkering that happens with me as well, which some of it is documented. Yeah, so, but I don't tend to like sit in that. I'm aware of that, but I'm still I'm still Pete in a body computer having a human experience at the same time, which is friggin' awesome at the same time.
Well, you're quite fascinating, Pete. You really are. So you've made 2 documentaries. You've made Multidimensional and Ascension, right? And they're both
Yeah,
brilliant. And a lot of your information is in those documentaries for anyone who hasn't seen them. They're available there. And you've written a lot of books, and there's a lot of information about you. But you being you, you're now releasing transmissions, right? And you're sharing your insights, you're sharing your understanding, and what's really coming through at this time. Tell us a little bit about what wants to come through now. What do we need to know?
well, the transmissions have been happening for over a decade, so they're nothing new. I think what's new is me deciding to be more public about it, because I've always I being in the public eye, whether it was for music years ago or now this for the last nearly 15 years, I like to have what privacy I can have. But then there comes a point that it's like, well, what's the use? Because what you do and what you say is just judged underneath a microscope anyway. And it's not that I'm super famous, but known enough in the community that it's just how it is on a bigger scale than what it normally is for most people, because it's just the way it is being human in this world. But the transmissions have always been of a nature of information that I'll give you an example. So the book of Shiji 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are bestsellers, they're all channeled material. What most people don't know is that getting to the last book, it was more of me channeling my higher self, source, but intermittently throughout those books, I had Archangel Metatron, Michael, and other angelic intelligences, as well as representatives or intelligences from other extraterrestrial races and realms that were part of the orchestrating of that book. But we just put it under the book of Shiji as something just to put a name to it, even though she started dictating with it through me, which happens to be another aspect of me that I'm interfacing with.
Beautiful.
So when people read the material, it can sound bat crazy for some, but those that understand are meant to understand in terms of our duty, our mission, to have love, compassion, and non-judgment. They're really reminders that I think if you got anybody in the spiritual community that's at a certain point on their journey, nothing's really new to them. Like I can hand those books to newcomers and they're not into spiritual stuff. And somehow they know that material, but they don't know how they know it. It's because it's in their soul. The transmissions are reminders. I don't think there is much at all in the world, including my own material, that is new to anyone. The experiences and the independent way that they were experienced and the way that they're relayed, that is independent and can be new.
Mm-hmm.
But the fruit of the experience and the knowledge of those experiences and the wisdom and what you're going to do with that is not new. It's sitting there in the soul. And these are more activations, these transmissions, like I think most people's stuff is whether they are willing to admit that or realize it or not. None of this is new. We all know it, and we don't know how we friggin' know it. And that's because the soul is going, take note. This is meant to be a signpost for you right now, and you may not understand it. Whether you understand it or not doesn't matter. Just take note. What you're meant to do with this may come at a later time, it may not, but it's a trigger that something bigger is going on, and that you are more than just this human experience, but yet you are here to help transform the human experience. I hope that the way I'm explaining a transmission is
Brilliant.
making sense.
Yeah, you're talking about it. It's a journey of remembrance.
It is, and look, there's a lot of sites. Like when I was taken off world to Orion, the Pleiades, and Sirius, I was taken to these locations, predominantly in Orion. It was Sigma Orionis, and in the Pleiades, where when I was taken to Orion with the Elohim, I went into this area that was like a stone circle with script and geometry, that I had to physically go to this location to get information. I didn't understand at the time, later. And what happened to me in the Pleiades was quite very much the same. You go to certain places like the Himalayas, or even just anywhere on the planet, to ancient sites and locations, there's a lot of transdimensional information stored in those locations. We could even say ethereal libraries. And sometimes we've left information there for ourselves to experience at a future time and be activated, or activated for others. But it doesn't have to be in the way that I'm talking about. It's many ways that these transmissions and activations can occur. It just happens to be that I get these things that I've just got to grab the computer and just type. Like the Book of Shiji, all of them, I did a chapter at a time in one sitting. I'd sit down and I'll just write, not even look at the screen, and that's that chapter done. And I'd be done back one each day until that book was done. And it's the same now. I've been doing it for years. I'll just pick up the computer, open the document thing, and I'll just start typing. And I'm just deciding to share more of that, I guess.
Yeah. So with what because you talk about certain locations being activated because we put it there, like we put it there for now, and the information and what you're saying about the changes in the earth. Can you give us a nice, sweet summary of what's coming through, and what the last few videos you posted on your channel about information that's coming through about technology, about sacred sites, about the shifts that are coming? Where are you at with that in your understanding?
So through the central part of the galaxy, it's connect. And I was saying this before we know the scientific data is out there now, and I think others were for sure saying stuff like this, but I was unaware of it. Just like the dodecahedron, I've had people say scientists think that the universe is a dodecahedron made up of them, and I've been talking about that for years, unknowns to myself. But source energy, this is a reflection of God's mind, and I say that humans and the human experience that we're experiencing now in this physical universe, and even extraterrestrials, it would be the bottom 5%. Once you start going to the other realms where there's no planets and it's just realms, that's like the other 90%. Then you hit the geometric light realms or the angelic kingdoms, and then you break into the source. But you can go straight from any experience and straight into source. Now, in this physical manifestation of God's mind, from my understanding, the energies that are projecting this reality and the programming for us to experience it are coming through the central part of the galaxy that offshoots to all stars. Those stars, have beings living on them. They're also portals, but they're also sending data and transmissions to the planetary bodies local to them, and sometimes other areas. So the energies are coming through, that we're hitting a cycle, that we're going through a cyclical period, going into the next level of ascension, or the next layer, which ascension is going to be for everyone, even if it's just reaching a higher state of consciousness. With that, there is earthquakes, tsunamis. So what happens is that energy comes in, and the earth is reacting to where the plates are shifted. There's a science to it with how all this is occurring. So the plate shift, depending on where you are in location, will depend on tornadoes, hurricanes, other types of things. These are also signs of, we could say, a cleansing occurring. Now, I'm not talking about, people and things like that, though this is going to be something that naturally occurs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got a situation where Gaia is working with the sun, and what's coming through is the divine feminine, which is through the hearts and the minds of the people, as well as the masculine. It's been overridden with masculine for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because of that, you've got a situation where Earth is going through its own evolutionary change, which means, yeah, the plates and things are going to shift on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a wake-up sign that how quick and how easy this shift is actually depends on us working with Mother Earth, and we're not acknowledging it.
Wow.
And usually when huge events take place, it's got to do with the sun and its cycle with the solar maximum, you've got solar minimum. But again, these are transmissions coming through, and the Earth receiving its transmissions for each state, evolutionary state. And humans react differently with the electromagnetic field. We know if somebody's put in a fear cage, they can hallucinate, be paranoid, nausea, all these different things, which is when you're in the basement of a home with bad wiring and there's high EMFs. That's happening to us from the sun, all of us, when these flares are taking place. But they're also bringing in higher energies. And this has really got to do with evolutionary leaps. Now, with that said, there's more consciousness and light coming into from the photons have got a huge thing to play with this, but there's different densities and levels of photons, and they're affecting our photon robe, which is our Merkaba. That's the image of God that we are. On one frequency, it's a Merkaba made up of trillions of other Merkabas. The dodecahedron's another template. So because of that, when that energy is coming through, and those that have risen to the occasion, and when you start to see signs and these ancient sites activated, it will be through people who just know what to do. It's not going to worry about the country it's in, the caretaker, who's the caretaker of the site. These things are, I don't know how to say it, but biblical with what can occur from these activations, which is technologies and stargates, from healing technologies to energy that is going to make any form of energy we've been working with in recent times look like nothing. But there's a shift of consciousness that comes with that when you've risen to an occasion, like we've spoken about, you'll now reach a new level of technology that you'll do things at a certain level with it. Otherwise, you wouldn't achieve that. So there'll be some that reach that, some that don't. This is where there's a splitting off and an overlapping of worlds over worlds, because those pyramids exist throughout all time. They exist in the past, and they exist in the future, and they're overlapping all times. The original pyramids were crystalline pyramids that the Elohim put over all planetary bodies. And then you had other civilizations like the Venetians and the Star Nations that created lower forms of pyramid technology that are quite still advanced, like the Egyptian pyramids that are stargates and energy generators. And then you've got what the fallen Elohim, the negative ones, have done through a distorted network of consciousness that's created a grid that we're actually living in, that are using, for an example, war memorials, shopping malls, casinos, the roads as the wires, as a network grid system. I've got this up on my presentation on YouTube, and I'm actually bringing this out on a video series that I've just started. It's all filmed and done. It's just got to be uploaded. But I actually show this where I got told this from Shiji years ago, and then Michael Tellinger, who's quite well known in different areas to do with spirituality and archaeology, I was talking to him and saw him doing a presentation, and he showed what I'm talking about. And I'd been talking about it for years, but I'm like, and apparently he'd been talking about it for years, and I was taken aback, and I was like, can I use those slides? And I told him, Shiji told me all these years ago, I said, here's the physical evidence. I never thought to take aerial photos of all this. And they look like processors in computer circuits. We're living in it. And our energy is feeding this, is the energy for this circuit. So if you look down on the pyramids and computer circuits and processors, they almost look identical with ancient sites.
That's just
now you look. Now you look down on a city that you're living in and how it's all squares and roads. And you've got usually, where I've been in the Western world, usually there's a lot of, for no reason between towns or in a town, there's a little tower thing with a war memorial plaque on it.
Wow.
And what's happening is that is feeding that to the AI grid through negative energy. A lot of these things will represent war and what have you. Now, it's not to get all doom and gloom, but this is the bipolar aspect of source. But the transmissions is that we're activating these ancient sites and grids through an elevation in consciousness, but we're going through the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
And we're also a divine technology, us.
The most advanced technology in the physical universe would be our body, but even more advanced is the inner technology that's operating the body.
So that's walking this grid. This, as you said, this, we're like in a circuit, but we're actually beyond that. We're prior to that.
It is. Well, it's like I was told that if you look around, especially your neck of the woods in the world, you go through Ireland, you go through Scotland and England, into France and what have you, you guys are on meccas of ley lines, right? Now, when you got these ley lines, these energetic lines that are, I forget the guy that actually found them, but you've got, think about how many of these ancient sites and churches and all that are built on these grids. They're harvesting that energy. Now, we're living in another level of that, and we're here to raise the frequency. You can use that energy for positive or negative.
Okay, right.
But we're here to invert that, to put it to a higher state. It's like a knife. You can use a knife to kill somebody, or you can use it to butter your bread, or you can sculpt something with a knife. It's all about the eye of the beholder, you could say, but that's really what we're partly doing, is we're going through this conscious evolutionary state that it's not just us, it's other worlds going through it too, but we seem to be the main focal point from my understanding.
And you have quite a big understanding. So what is the golden age that you talk about? What does that feel like, that place, that reality, that whatever that is? What is that? It
is a difference, like, for example, with the Pleiadians, and depending on what species you're talking about, I'm going to generalize this here rather than going to races and planets and stars there, but it's a common theme that the very normal things are taken care of. That because of AI and it's being worked with in a positive way, things, jobs that are menial, unless people want to do them, are taken care of. But you're not working for money. There's still a thing that how much energy you put into something will determine how much energy you get back from things. But you follow your passion, which means you follow your purpose in that, because you're passionate about it. It's flipped. And so even if you're in other lives in those states being recognized that you're great at this, you can still go in and explore other things that you want to explore and maybe become an expert in and contribute to that civilization in whatever manner. It's going to be the same for that here. But there is a transformational period that Dolores Cannon says it well, when it's like a light switch is turned on. It's just going to be like a light switch is turned on. And we're not going to be living from a place of the bottom three chakras, which is, I just need to friggin' pay my bills. I want to be safe. I want to be secure. It's going to be a shock to the system, because it's like, well, what do we do now? And everything is about how to elevate, how to ascend. Doesn't mean leave the physical body, though. That can be something if you want to strive for that. But I say just try to ascend naturally, because we've already done, like when you hit that, you realize that's what you already are. You leave source's state and go and explore within it to experience and gain knowledge for the overall collective and go back up. And then you can do what you want with that. So that's why we need to embrace these experiences, but it's something where you'll be living your passion and purpose. And
wow,
there's also a flip side to this for some, which is what we could say is this, that I'll know everything about you and you'll know everything about me. And can you deal with that? Because that's what happens with these higher states of consciousness as well. Now, from a love and compassion, non-judgment state, it doesn't mean jack. But have people healed? Are they non-judgmental enough of others yet themselves to be okay with all the great and all the bad and all the secrets. Because with evoluted societies, specifically an Andromeda galaxy light being race that I interface with, they're a warrior race, powerful, peaceful warriors, and they're all at this certain level of consciousness, this specific type of energy. And I was a bit concerned to start off with because they seem angelic, but they're not. But they had a hive mind, and they're like, yeah, we've got a hive mind, but we still embrace the individual aspect of each of us. So when I got to single in on each intelligence, I could see that they did have different personalities. Well, let's say with certain grey extraterrestrial races, robots are a bit different matter when you're looking at that. But let's say the ones that have got a consciousness, you can see different personalities, but then there's others that have a consciousness, but let's say they're being in a situation with their civilization that they're pretty much just a hive mind and there's no individual aspect with it, which is a bit bland and a bit concerning.
Yeah, a bit concerning that hive mind is not, you don't want to go down that tube.
No. So you can do that. This is the thing. We can have a new world order where we do what I'm saying, but through AI and chips, and that's used against us. Or we can work together and have a new world order in another way. Either way, we need a new world order. It's just which one do you want? Do you want one that's draconian or one that's going to elevate us? Meaning we embrace the differences, but we just get on with it. Because the differences is what makes this beautiful. It's like, and as an artist, you'd know this because I don't consider myself an artist, but I delve a bit into it. And what I found was that sometimes the imperfections are what make the art perfect in its own way. And as an artist, you might be pissed off at it going, oh, I wanted it this way and it didn't come out. But you step back and you look at the bigger picture, and the imperfections are imperfections to you, but to God, it's perfect. Like you and I might have our own imperfections. No one's what we would consider perfect in the terms of perfect, but to Source, everything is perfect the way it is.
Yeah.
That mistake to you isn't a mistake. It's that little dimple in your cheek that's on your art. That's meant to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For me, the imperfections, well, what's perfect isn't real. Like, that's just not even real. It's so ridiculous because the world that we live in is striving for something that's unachievable. That's why it's there. So you're constantly striving for the unattainable, because the unattainable, there's no such thing as perfect body, perfect life, perfect anything. You're totally perfect the way you are. That's the game. And when you realize that actually, that's just a frequency that's going to keep you dissatisfied forever. Because, you know, I used to be a yoga teacher and I worked in London, and I used to work in Knightsbridge, and these people were very, very wealthy, like super wealthy, right? And after about 8 years of working with these people, just teaching yoga privately in their homes, I just had to get out. I just thought, I have to get out of here because they're so unhappy. And I'd say to one of them, like, the loneliness, they'd have me every day because they're so lonely. And I'm thinking, and you know, that everything's perfect. The home is perfect. The body's perfect. The nails, the eyelashes, the diamonds, the whole thing, the job your man has. And the loneliness just, it rang so loud to me. I thought, I don't even want to teach yoga anymore. I don't want to be involved in this. I want to create something new for myself. And so with art, music, anything creative teaches you to live in the flow. When you're not living in the flow, you're achieving perfection. But by being in the flow of creativity, that is perfection itself, because you're constantly moving and changing and evolving. Looking for perfection is trying to take an image and then you're trying to live in an image. But an image is stagnant. You can't be in stagnancy. You've got to keep moving, got to keep creating, whether you're creating mayhem or are you creating beauty? And whatever you're broadcasting into this reality at this time, you've got to be very, very vigilant of that, because what you're doing now is going to determine where you go when you leave your body. For starters, let's be honest about that. This is
100%. I tell people when they transition, or if they're coaching somebody, like if they're in that state when they're passing, to follow the love. Always follow the love. Yeah, no, very important, because what you are thinking is going to attract that and manifest that. we hear about law of attraction, but really it's like, what are you broadcasting?
Mhm.
100%. You're spot on with that.
So you teach them that when they leave their body to follow the love.
Yeah.
There's no end to your teaching, is there? You're even giving them the roadmap for when they check out.
Oh, it's
I love
especially with my own loved ones.
it's
A couple
lovely.
of years ago, I was with my stepfather for about 30 hours as he passed, and he's one of the closest people in my life. And I knew everything would be fine, but and he'd seen the crafts with me, but wasn't. I wouldn't say he's spiritual, but he was treat others how you want to be treated and help people in so many ways that people will never understand.
Mm.
He had an accountancy firm, and he'd just give people tens of thousands to have their family with them while they were getting cancer therapy in a city.
Mm.
Just go and stay with them and whatever you need. Like, he did this countless times. He was a really good person, and it's something with me where I had to just say follow the love, because it wasn't something on his radar. I think he was a normal, if you want to say normal, just not open to all this, but not shooting it down either. But that's why I say it's the most simplistic thing, whether it's a spiritual person or it's somebody that's, again, not putting down anyone, but just a normal human that had a normal job and just got by, and they were a parent or whatever, which, yeah, great. But they're passing. The number one thing is just follow the love. Because if you don't, you'll go into lower vibratorial states.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll eventually get back to source where you need to go, but to avoid those lower vibratorial states, which is where there's lower astral intelligences and reptilians and greys and all sorts of different entities, if you just stay in that love frequency, they're not resonating on that. When you're in a fearful, freaking out frequency, it's distorted, it's chaotic. That's the frequencies they're on, which is why you get those weird feelings when they come in your presence.
Exactly.
Because that's what their state is. They're vibrating at that, but it's not harmonic. It's not regular. It's chaotic. So you match that just like you said, you are like, you're going to attract what you broadcast. You're in a tripped out state when you're passing, well, then that's what you're going to experience. So you follow the love, you're going to get exactly where you need to go.
And trust that too. So not to be afraid.
And even the false lights and all this stuff that even Sheedy's spoken about that and this and that. It's like, if you follow the love, and the love will put you, if you're conscious in the physical body before crossing over, you'll have tears beyond. It's not crying, it's just tears, because that's what it does to you. That's what it does to you. Like, that's the love. It's just beyond space, time, and the body's reacting that way to it. That's what you want to chase. You've got nothing to worry about. So I keep it simple, follow the love.
Yeah, I like the way you keep it simple. And I'm coming to understand something through my own what's been presented to me over the years, and what actually initially got me into hypnosis is when I leave this body, I want to know, and not that I want to know everything, because I can only perceive a certain amount at a certain time, but I want to know enough that I don't spin around and get back into a loop that I don't want to be in. And with going into your heart and connecting to your soul, going into your heart, connecting to your soul, and in there you can see everything that you need to see and know and understand. So when I leave my body, I'm not going into a light. I'm going into the light of my own soul. I'm going home.
It will take you exactly where you need. That's why I said it's the core of the light body, the heart. So you go into the heart and you follow the love, which will take you in anyway.
Exactly.
And there's two states. You a cell of all that is. So in that state, you've got all access to your book of the soul. But that is a cell of source. And in that, you actually will and reunite with that part, and it actually knows all that is and ever will be. So you actually we tend to think of how our brain takes it in a linear method. When you're in an unbounded conscious state, you're actually in nothingness, which is everything. And where you focus that attention, you can bring things up like a library and experience it if you wanted to, or have that knowingness. But I've experienced it. Like, you will know everything when you go back to that state. So that's why I don't worry about it. Like, you will. It's like, we're going to laugh so much at this. I say to people, when you get back to that state, you're going to laugh so much at this experience. Why was I worried even about all the spiritual crap that I was trying to work out? Because here I know it. But it's part of you losing that in the experience to have the experience that you're going to have. Because if you knew all that, it's just not going to it's a catch-22 scenario. It really is.
Catch
It,
22. What even does
it,
that? What does 22? 22 what? 22
I don't
what?
know why it says that, but as a catch-22, it's like it's a yes or and it's a no at the same time. You know, it
Oh,
means this, but it also means, there's a catch to it,
but what is
Yeah.
22? I mean, who came up with catch 22? What does that
I
even
know,
mean?
maybe it's because it's my birthday number. There we go.
Oh, is
It's all
it?
about me. Yeah. I'm
It's all about
22nd of the 11th. 22nd of the 11th.
22nd of the 11th. So you teach self-mastery, right?
I hope so.
Oh, I hope so too, because someone has to. So you teach self-mastery. So for anyone who wants some teaching on self-mastery, go to Pete. He's loving, he's authentic, he's the real deal. And what I would say about that is it's not just about your time in this body. Like I figured it out when I was very young that this is a soul journey. It's not a human journey. I realized that young, and I realized that whatever I put in, like I need to invest. I was investing so much time in boyfriends and breakups and looking good and all of that stuff. I've invested as so much time in how good can I look? How like and because of insecurity, right? So and then you have boyfriends, and it was all this. I was in my younger years, I see my daughter now, and just like, don't go down that road. You're just so beautiful. And then I realized that I'm giving all my energy to this. I need to go in because this is transient. And you can do that and you can do it better. But actually, I need to develop my soul. I'm feeding my energy over here when I need to bring my energy back to myself and begin to understand myself. Because when I leave this body, I'm with myself.
Yeah.
None of them are coming with me. I've got to
No,
invest.
100%. And it's just like in life, but you leave all your friends from high school and you think, oh, I'm doing this to be in the cool group, this and that. If something happens, they're not there.
No, they're not going to be there. You're there with yourself.
Cross over. Now, when you cross over, it's different in the words of, as long as you can look source in the eye as a metaphor and you can say you did the best, that's what I'm about. If you
Yeah.
can do that when you go like the source. But if I get what you're saying, and I try to look at this in a way that I can announce this, is that if you don't know what you want, well, you're going nowhere.
Yeah.
Now, you may not know what you're doing, but in not knowing what you're doing, there are directions for doing certain things. And that's usually how God will work through you. But my thing with people, even though I go through very extensive areas, whether it's with Qigong, Yigong, different meditation techniques, remote viewing techniques, Himalayan practices, Mayan practices, I go through a hell of a lot of different techniques in the different levels and modalities that I teach and train in, and help people with hypnotherapy, NLP, so many different things. But let's keep it basic. Get up and spend time with God. Assess yourself, assess your thoughts, assess how you're feeling, and spend time with the universe, with your own God self, whatever you want to term that intelligence. Just get up, light some incense, or have a ritual, an area where you do it every morning, first thing when you get up. Even if it's for 2 minutes, and follow it with a prayer, giving thanks for everything that you've got, all your loved ones in your life, the ups, the downs, the lessons, and just ask to be shown and have the wisdom and knowledge to know when God is speaking to you to make the best decisions and choices for your own evolution. Doing that builds an energy up and an introspective of self-reflection. Doing that, I do that every morning and every night before bed. That's just a basic thing I do, as well as my practices. But followed, mixed in with that, is, like I was saying, what do you want and where are you going? And what is between you now at that place where you are and where you're wanting to go? What do you have to do? What can you do right now? What may be long-term things that you need to get to that space? And if you really think about it, it will usually be something that you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're really passionate about, it's usually got a form of service to others involved with it,
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to have to get in your own comfort zone and into the heart.
Big time.
And if it's really what you're meant to be doing, all the excuses of why you're not doing it, you've got to kick out the friggin' window. And if it's really what you're meant to be doing, everything will get taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
it was a bit personal when I talked to you before we started about the I left with $500 and I full circle a decade later and I've got $500. And then I go all in, and here I am now sitting in a sanctuary. It's not out of ego I'm saying this, but it took me around the world, meeting people from places that people wouldn't even be able to imagine. And all but started with me going on television talking about UFOs and that they're like multidimensional, they're like ghosts, and a whole town and nation ridiculing me now. Oh, you hear about it on Skinwalker Ranch and everything else. Oh, they're like an apparition, this, that, the other. Like, yeah, ETs are real, angels are real, but here I am years later sticking to my guns and got the evidence, and it's taken me places that I've been passionate about it because God's had things in store for me that I could not see and I still don't see. And I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no idea, but that's what I was saying. The next thing will come.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got to do it and you don't know why you got to do it, but there's a form of service to others involved with it, it's a good thing. As long as it's got love, as long as it's teaching you something, as long as there's service to others involved with it, that's the fruit, that's the litmus test that you've got to have. But if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up nowhere.
Yeah, and that's very important. And that's not just a sentence. And it's like, well, whatever, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to get to where, I don't even know what a goal is. So if you just think of a laser gun, and that laser, you can have a single pointed laser, or you can have a broader spectrum that can, you're a single pointed laser. So every thought you have, how you think about your life, is projecting energy onto what you're thinking about, and you're expanding that. And so really, when you're not thinking about anything and you're not focusing anywhere, you're going to be very influenceable and influenced, and you're going to be very dissatisfied, and you're going to be in a loop pattern. But when you begin to harness your energy and begin to be very conscious about where you're putting your thoughts, and then you begin to put your thoughts on things that are important to you, it'll become very evident what you want and where you want to go. It's almost like, it's like the leaf. I don't know. I don't even know how to even go to where you're even talking about. Some people are so lost at sea, but actually sit, as you said, just take a simple practice of being, acknowledging, how are you feeling? I have a lot of thoughts, obviously, because you have a mind, you're going to have a lot of thoughts. That's such a, you're going to have a lot of thoughts. That's obvious. So people go, I don't like to sit because I have a lot of thoughts. Yeah, because you've got a mind. But you're going to learn that you're not your thoughts. So that just takes a bit of time. But you're teaching self-mastery, and in the repetitiveness of the remembering and the beginning, as you said, the information's not new, it's just beginning to remember. Remember, when you leave your body, you're trained to know what to do so you don't get caught off guard.
Yeah.
This is a training. This is an experience, and you're having an experience and you're here to do things. But also you need to train yourself and have the repetition of visiting a certain location within yourself, that when your body does drop, whether it's in a shock or whether it's a slow one, in or out slow, you know where you're going because you've been there that many times.
Yeah, and you may not know it, but that's the thing, is that it will come online. Like what needs to come through will come on. Just like if you don't know what you should be doing now, that's fine. At least you know that you don't know, that you don't, you don't know, but you want to know. So that gives you a focal point, right? Exactly. But what this comes down to as well is self-mastery. What is this? Being the master of your thoughts, your actions, being in control of you. Now, what this also comes back down to, and we spoke about this before we started this recording, was that I'm really big, yes, on soul evolution and human potentiality, but emotional regulation. That is every day. I don't care. You throw me the biggest name, which I do know quite a lot behind the scenes, and what I can tell you is when I've had talks like this with them, I like to know the mechanics of them, just like they're probing me too, because people that have done very successful things in their fields, I want to know what their triggers are and how they got where they are and what practices they've got. And what I can tell you is I haven't met not one that has it all sorted. What it is it's an everyday thing. They all still get triggered, but what I've worked out, it all comes down to emotional regulation. And because they've done the inner work, you could say 95% of things, fling off them. And then every now and then there's something that will trigger them, piss them off, but they've got the tools that they're teaching that they use for themselves, and they get by, and they'll go in their office and say the F word for 5 minutes and then go into their practice and they're right. But it has to be something, usually in a lot of cases, to really get them to that, something quite huge to get them to that state. But this is why I say to people, like, you can do all the courses you want, this, that, and the other. It comes down to emotional regulation. What it should be is you finding the tools to regulate yourself when you're being triggered, when you're being activated, and to get you back into a harmonious state. And what does it? You said it before, and I said it's the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recommend Heart Math Institute. I'm not representing them. I say this in interviews. I've got heart breathing techniques I've been doing for about 10 years. You're doing your techniques through the heart. And I tell you now, with the technologies and devices that I've been using and others, you can see in real time that people get into a coherent state. When you're in that state, your depression drops, your anxiety drops, your way to deal with emergencies and other situations drops, better sleeping, better energy, better physical body, like all these different things, everything across the board starts to improve. If you're doing that every day, using tools to keep yourself emotionally regulated, that's the self-mastery. When you step into that, now you're in more of a better setting than any other time in your experience, because you're not educated on this in human experience that you're having once you understand the tools. And it might not be your tool or my tool. That's why I say investigate, but don't think you doing courses for 100 years is going to do it. I've done a lot of courses and I'll continue, because I want to know as much as I can, so I've got more tools to help the individual, because what helps one won't help another. But my thing, looking at self-mastery, it is emotional regulation, and it's a constant, but it's not to be a big deal. It's like getting up. You're going to always have to get up and brush your teeth twice a day. If it's just life. You need to have a shower once or twice every day. Like, so why not wash the soul and your emotions and check yourself? That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. I like the fact you said it's very simple, your techniques, because it is very simple. But I think there's a lot of people dressing up a lot of things to make a lot of money that's not really going anywhere. Actually, the most powerful things are the simplest things. I mean, the simplest. They're so simple you don't even see them. They're like, really?
Yeah.
If I sit and breathe and connect to my heart and allow my heart to expand, it's like, that's it. How do I do that? Well, you'll find a way. There's people teaching it. Your soul will teach you. And for me, when I learned to regulate myself, regulating myself means I don't get activated when I see someone from my past, or when someone says something, or when you just look at it, and it's like that thought, you just let it float on by. You just don't grab it and go, oh, you don't let the incoherent frequency in all the time. You're not trigger land. It's like, I was out with friends last night, and we were talking about, in the beginning, it's like a Neo, he's dodging bullets, and you're trying to dodge bullets. Then there becomes self-mastery is when there are no bullets. You just
the bullets are you.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you don't even have to dodge them anymore, but you will get a whack every so often, just to remember, self-regulate, and it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. But it is an everyday practice. And you teach self-mastery, and also you do see five events as well, don't you?
Yeah, like the stuff I wish I could do, but because everything I've passed here by the government to do what I'm doing, I pay my taxes and everything's above board with business register. Like people don't. If people try to undo me, they can't. I went 3 years this took to go and put everything I've got into it. So it's done by the book. I wanted to do it by the book as well. So the Skywatch is a CE5 events, and what I'm mainly known for. And people can even see events going back, pretty much a decade of daytime events in Melbourne, where I'm not in Melbourne, I'm originally from Albury, which I'm back near now. But anywhere in the world I've held these events, there's stuff that goes down, and there's not one event that something hasn't happened that I had. So that's the main thing. But I went through years and years of training. So I'm training Hatha, Tantric and Kundalini yoga. and a teacher in those things as well. And also with meditation and Zen meditation, remote viewing, and like even stuff that I've done, like 10-day retreats and days in darkness. And that's where I say to a lot of people, like, if what I wish I could do, which I was getting to, is I wish I could do 5-day events here, which maybe down the track once I got more facilities and that, because 5 days in complete silence, like Vipassana, which I've done, you do up to 10 days. And I think originally it might have been in a few months, and then they went to 40 days and they brought it down to 10. When you've got no eye contact, no electrical devices, no talking for 10 days, usually the third day people lose their crap. But at that stage as well, you start to realize your vibration. When I went into that setting, because I'd done so much meditation, I realized that I was vibration. Now, Vipassana is meant to be the purest forms of Buddhist teachings. Now, I don't say that's necessarily, it might be true. I don't know. All I know is that the first time I did it, I levitated twice in the hall. The teacher's telling me that I was losing my karma. And I'm like, I don't feel that I was losing my karma. I had electrical shock go up and down my spine, and I'm opening my eyes and I'm a few inches off the freaking ground. And then I went back to meditate, and it happened again a few minutes later.
Wow.
But my point with that is very much like how my experiences take place, in terms of when you're in that state that the five senses start to shut down, you realize that you are vibration and this stuff is accessible 24/7 around you. But because you're bombarded with electronics and talking and signs and color and all these things in our face, you don't have time. And usually people can't deal with it more than 3 days, because all their crap comes up, or all their vices or people that they rely on, they cry too much and they're missing them. And that's okay. That's really okay. But if you can push through things like that, when you get into those other days, that's where you're like, whoa. And I'm sort of in a constant state of that here if I'm not doing appointments, because I'm on the property by myself pretty much all the time, and I've got no neighbours, and I'm just in nature. And I'm lucky in that state. But like I say, we are here to be human as well, and there are benefits, whether it's a partner or children or being of service to others, building stuff, being in nature. There's things that we've got to enjoy. We can't just be off with the clouds. And because if you're really that evolved, what's most likely going to happen is you're going to get back upstairs and go, crap, I got to go back, because it's in you to go back and do what you're meant to do. So let's just do it and enjoy it while we do it. I think just because it's so dense and things are so hard, a lot of people don't want to be here. But
yeah, but they
got lemons, make some lemonade.
But you are, so get on with it. Just get on with it. Just get it done in this time. Come on, don't give up. And do you know what I've noticed over the years? Anybody who has gotten to a certain phase of their soul's development, who's done a lot of work, and and as you said, they haven't gotten up after 3 days. Like, they sit it out, and they gain those inner strengths, and they overcome their fears, and they overcome all those human things. And then you're going out and you're communicating and having experiences on whatever level you're at or not. Really, the people who have really a lot to say, and they say very little, are the ones that just go, just enjoy being human. It just, there are ones, like you said to me at the beginning before we press record, Biba, really, it's just about enjoying being human. Primarily, we can spend hours every day. Like, I used to meditate like as much as I could not to be here, because it was just too good. Feeling love was just, and then being here, I was so agitated. I became useless at being a mum, because I was like, what do you want? And I was like, what's that about? How can you say to her, what do you want? And you're crying with the whatever up there. Like, get your shit together, Biba. Get your shit together. Get your head out of the clouds and get on with being a good parent. So then she was like, I became more present. And I realized I was avoiding being human at all costs. And my daughter, because, your loved ones call you to the present moment. Animals call you to the present moment, your loved ones. And so now I'm just in it, and I more enjoy all of the experiences of being human than I have ever enjoyed gallivanting my soul. And I do that every day, but it's not overtaking. There's no escapism anymore. It's regulation. Because you need to regulate it. But it is, because when you're really in the human, I have to regulate, because it's not about getting into spiritual stuff to escape. It's about getting into that to know how to regulate through the human stuff, because energetically there's a lot of pull. For me, there's a lot of pull in the human story. I can feel the pull. It's like I have to unplug those plugs. They're everywhere. And then the self-regulation is just going into 0 point convergence within yourself. And then it's like, boom, I'm here again. I'm here for you. I'm here for me. I'm here for my pets. I'm here to do what I need to do. Instead of going, can't cope, don't want to be here, can't cope, don't want to be here. Yeah, dead right, you don't want to be here.
And that's where chords and people's emotions, and it was like I was saying before this, how, you know, sometimes just people think that you're a one-stop shop, that like you can be fixed, you can be healed. Now, as I said, it's documented and it's known, like I've had people walk again without the need for a cane or walking frames. I've had people get their eyesight and hearing. I didn't even try to do any of this. It happens when I've done my events or when we're meditating, whatever we've done. Same's happened for James Gilliland over at the East City Ranch. And as James says, it's between them and God, not him. And I'd see it. I don't know how it's done. It just happens. And it's happened without me even setting the intention. I think the first time it happened was 2014 or 13. It's been happening that long. But my point with this is that those things happen, but then some people, and usually those people aren't even putting out for it. Like they literally, they've just, I got my hearing, Pete, I haven't heard for 20 years and I can friggin' hear like I used to 20 years ago. Like what's going, you know, just they haven't put out for it. And then you got others that don't see, like, it's like they think it's like Jesus and you can touch them and all their problems and every single little thing is fixed. As I said, on the odd case, I think that does happen, but it's because of their faith on the odd occasion. But in a lot of cases, they're not realizing it's coming down to self-mastery, most of all, underlying emotional regulation. That you can get there, and I might even be able to help you to help yourself get there. It's not me doing it, it's you doing it. But to maintain, it's really emotional regulation. Just like what you were saying just then, it's like even with the meditation, you can go and do that for a few days, but how do the experts say to maintain what you got out of that time, to keep meditating at least a little bit every day? They usually say an hour. And sometimes I'll do an hour to 4 hours. These days I'm sort of 40 minutes to an hour I'll do on a crystal bed thing that I've got, but I'm still doing it. You got to, and I told you I remote view every day. I still do a heap of targets every day and smash it out. And that's because I'm regulating and practicing. You can't just, you know, it's like physical fitness. Even for myself, I'll have days where I'm purely doing yoga or hiking or walking. And then other days, I've got a setting of doing qigong yoga and karate and push-ups and a yoga set as well. Like,
Jesus, man.
I've had that for years, but like I've had that routine for 20 plus years.
Wow.
So
that's a long time to be doing all of those things.
No, like people feel like shit, he actually does his stuff when they see me. So yeah, like I do that, but it's not saying, hey, be like me. It's finding what you enjoy that's not a chore. That's why I do it. Now, there's going to be days you don't want to do it, but when you do it, you're glad you've done it afterwards. Like there's days I don't want to do the weights, and I know that because the weights are the first thing I do, and as soon as I do the weights, I feel better and I can knock everything else out.
Wow, love it.
So it's dedication and discipline, but it's also finding things that aren't a chore, but finding your own things that might not be yoga. It might be Pilates. It might be just going for a friggin' 15-minute walk, and that's it. That's okay. But I find that things that get you in the zone, the zoneful things is no mind, which is a daydream state. That's the zone. And that, when you hit that state, that's God's mind. And usually people, when they're doing exercise or things like dishes or hanging the washing, they're just in a zone. They're getting all these answers and things coming through. And it's like, just do something.
Just do something. Yeah. And, you know, do it or
do
don't.
enough.
Yeah. And so listen, I'm going to wrap it up now because I know it's it's going to be the
I hope that people have understood me with the amount of coffee, and it is a bit late, but yeah, I've spent all day out there too chopping wood,
Have
So my
you?
dad came out for a Sunday, and I was just like, all right, let's knock some things down. So,
Well, thanks for sharing your evening with us. Thank you for that.
oh, thank you. It's been good to catch up again. It's been a pleasure, and keep doing what you're doing. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure doing this with you.
Thank you very much. And before you log off, you have teachings on your website, don't you? Like you have teachings. Like you're also launching new teachings, isn't that right? On your YouTube
Yeah,
video.
so well, you can go to there's Jai Sanctuary, Jay sanctuary.com, petermaxwellslattery.com, and also esettiaustralia.org. So all of them are pretty much the same sites and information, but there's a lot of there's meditations, different sort of series of teachings.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You have that, don't you?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that's available. There is an online course that's paid for, but there's so much stuff that's free content. And if people want to get the books or one of the movies you can pay for, one of them's actually free now on Tubi and YouTube as well. That's Multidimensional.
It's a brilliant documentary. I love that documentary. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
So there's a lot of stuff out there that people can find as resources, and yeah.
And events. When are you doing your next sky watching event?
So I'll be starting up in September. I think it might be September 12th or 14th, something around there. So I'm doing 3 events a month up until November, and then I might have a break over summer, or I might keep going. I'm just going to test it out with the temperature, just being Australia.
Yeah.
Too cold in winter, and then summer, I just don't want people getting heat stroke or anything. But at the very least, I'll be open for all spring and all autumn each year, at the least.
Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant. So you've got a lot on offer. Well, fair play to you for putting so much offerings out there, because a lot goes into one of those, let alone multiple offerings. I have one offering and it consumes a lot of my energy. So kudos to you for multidimensionally layering what you're doing and having a lot of offerings. That's a life's mission. And so I hope you get to enjoy being you, and you get to take time off just to enjoy the fruits of your own labor, Pete. You know what I mean?
I hope to soon, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
I've just finished up creating a remote viewing course, a light workers course.
Wow.
Self-mastery level 1 and 2 and C5 1 and 2, and then my private presentations that I do at events as well. I've done all that in the last week and a half. So I usually just once a year go through stuff. There's years and years of slides that I could do, but I think yeah, a break would be good, but I love what I'm doing, so it doesn't feel like work, but I probably just need to smell the roses every now and then. But I'm blessed, and it's all because of everyone that I've helped, and they contribute to this. This has all been everyone's making.
Beautiful.
So
you need each other. Isn't that so beautiful? Why we are here to help each other. That's why we're here. We're here to help each other.
I'll tell you something before we wrap it up. So I know 2 people, like let's say I know a lot of people that are extremely wealthy, and I've only met 2 that are extremely happy. And the common thing with both of the things that these 2 people said was the key is giving and to enjoy what you've got. And I mean, these are 2 people that are extremely wealthy, but they're extremely happy.
Beautiful.
And it's because they give and they want to be in that love frequency, where other people that are just as wealthy in some way, like financially, they're miserable.
Yeah, very lost.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I've met a lot of people that are really well off, and like I said, only 2 that I can name that are genuinely, really happy and spiritual, but the key was giving. And that's what I hope to do with Jaya Sanctuary, is give back, even when I'm not here, that this place is still here and it can give back.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your heart.
Oh, thank you for what you're doing. It's the same as why you're doing what you're doing. It's
fun.
You do it and you don't know why you got to do it. It's because it's God working through you.
I know. So some days I just go, Jesus, come on, and then I just go, don't judge this. Just go home and have a cup of tea and get on with it. Don't go there. Because my mum says to me the other day, she goes, how was your session? I says, oh, it was a real trauma-based one. And she looked at me and she went, are you okay? I said, yeah, it was just one of those ones where you have to push the donkey up the mountain. Come on, because we're going to glide in a moment, but you can do it. No, I can't do it. It's like, okay. but all in love. And some days you're holding someone's hand and you're just flying together equally, you're just flying to cosmos of your soul. And it's just like, whoa. You talk about going a daydream
the,
stuff.
the results from when you have those days are usually the hugest transformations for people. You might not see it on that day. It's like when I've got appointments and for some reason, whether it's technology or the way the booking happened, it took so long to just get the date and time. Every time that happens, I do the best readings. Like I always do a good job. I pace myself, but they're transformational for that person.
Amazing. Love
So
it.
whenever there's resistance or there's like just interference or it's going into a lower state, I'm like, this is going to be an epic reading. Because every time this happens, it's always epic. And so my point with that is don't let that deter you, because that's usually a sign of major assistance that you are helping somebody when you have that happen.
Until next time.
Love, light and bliss.
Until next time, please.